Well, traffic in the Treasure Valley has a lot of you frustrated. A lot of you. A new study shows people want efficient and reliable public transit.
Well, turns out the top choice is commuter rail. The discussion that's been around for about 40 years, though, hasn't really gone anywhere. Tonight on the 208 at 10, Joe Paris explores what's kept it at bay all these years and what may keep it at bay for the future.
For the last 18 months, the Community Planning Association of Southwest Idaho, COMPAS, they have studied a major issue.
What are all of the high-capacity transit options that could serve Ada and Canyon counties, and then try to narrow that down to what ones are going to provide the most benefit to our local community here?
Yes, this is the traffic talk. Ever sit stuck on I-84? Well, the goal is to find a new way for people to go east and west through the Treasure Valley.
This is the $1 million study we started about a year and a half ago, and it'll wrap up here in December. It has been helping us look at what high-capacity transit could do for our community.
Austin Miller is principal planner and planning team lead at COMPAS. The Planning and Environmental Linkages, or PEL study, has an answer.
And both the data and the outreach that we've heard from the public was telling us that they were looking for regional rail along what we're calling the Boise cutoff, which is the rail line running through our community here, connecting Caldwell to Boise.
Yeah, people want to do trains.
We are looking at commuter rail. Instead of light rail, they do operate on different tracks. So light rail sometimes you'll see running in the middle of a roadway. This is using our existing freight rail corridor. So it would follow generally that route, connecting the downtowns of Caldwell, Nampa, Meridian, and Boise.
Here's the most popular route, the Boise cutoff. From the Boise Depot to the Caldwell train depot, 7 stops along the way.
It would be a passenger rail service running along that route. Descriptions as to exactly how they would look are going to be negotiated, look at costs, things like that in the future. But yeah, that is what we're certainly hoping to see, and what we've heard from the community is what they're hoping as well.
So an age-old question here.
What hurdles, I guess, have there been in the past, recently, in distant past, that has prevented this from, I guess, happening? I talked to longtime Idahoans, and they're like, oh, well, this has been talked about for a long time. What makes this different now?
Yeah, so the main hurdle is, like we touched on earlier, we don't have an identified funding source at this time. So that is one thing that we'll keep looking at options and figuring out how we can best move forward. Also, just making sure that if this is what the community wants to see, the community keeps telling us that. We're here to listen to what the public has to say and how we can best serve them. So if anything changes, please let us know. That's what we're here for.
The study projects a cost of $2.5 billion for construction and then a multi-million-dollar expense for operating costs. As the final report is presented early next year, a major question looms.
How can we move this forward by finding an additional funding source, making sure that we're committed to this path is really the next steps.
Well, as you heard, the idea of commuter rail or light rail has been in the Treasure Valley has been a topic of discussion for decades. Boise's light rail plans date back to the early 1900s. We had trolleys back then. And use of those trolleys peaked in 1920 with about 2.5 million passengers a year. However, cars led to the end of the interurban rail line by 1928. Still, city leaders chose to give the idea a 2-week test run. Back in 1997, they brought in a Regio Sprinter to move people from Canyon County to southeast Ada, all the way to Micron. Much like today, though, the reaction back then was mixed.
You know, we have a hard time making the bus system work, let alone putting a train system in. But I'm not negative on it. I just think we've got a long ways to go.
It looks to me like it's an obvious fit, but it's up to our community, it's up to our Treasure Valley to decide that.
And as we know, and to also pay for it. Despite past challenges, advocates believe light rail could resurface as a viable solution for the Treasure Valley's growing transportation needs if the funding surfaces for it as well. Idaho is one of 2 states that does not help pay for public transportation.